This IRL streamer crashed his car into a store while live streaming it, and sources are saying he did this because he just wanted to see what would happen. How is this real? Apparently all of this happened in Finland a few months back, and I didn't know about this guy until a friend of mine mentioned, hey, why haven't you made a video on this guy yet? Well, I didn't even know of this guy's existence. How the bar for IRL streaming has collapsed this low is a question I will continue to ask myself perpetually throughout my career. Because ladies and gentlemen, I guess we found a new low. So this Finnish IRL streamer is on his way to becoming, I guess, one of the most down bad or outrageous influencers in the world, as he just keeps on living his life as he's in this disaster simulator, and he just brags about being a problem for humanity. Normally, I call these people a burden to society as a dig towards them, but this guy just openly embraces it. From crashing his mother's car into a store while drunk driving to eating poisonous mushrooms and tasting his own body waste on stream. I mean, there is just, there's no words to describe that. And why is he doing this? Because again, he wanted to see what would happen. And all of those things I just listed happened within a few days of each other. And these aren't even the worst things that this guy has done live. So meet Arttu Pulkkinen, also known as Upi, a Finnish IRL streamer who's made it his life mission to become the ultimate internet troll. And Upi seems to be like a product of what you get if you take Johnny Somali and a couple other IRL streamers who are just complete degenerates, and you put them in an environment like Finland, where there's basically no consequences. Certifiable Nordic region moment. But like many other IRL streamers, this guy has basically turned his entire life into just one big internet reality TV show, except he gets banned all the time. So it's a constant scramble to find where he is next because he's always banned. So this has definitely kneecapped his career massively. But that is absolutely not stopping his quest line of ruining his own life, because in the last few months alone, he already has thrown prosecutors' eviction letters down the toilet, gambled a large chunk of his net worth at the casino while high on that Walter White special, and playing with a homemade flamethrower. That's just scratching the surface of the insanity of this man. Almost as insane as the amount of spam callers that are out there currently, because sadly, a lot of our information can be found on the internet. But how do you reduce the amount of information about you that's on the internet? Well, unfortunately, data brokers are the problem. Especially after the holiday shopping season, we've all signed up for something with our number, and then suddenly you're being spammed with all sorts of telemarketers and scammers. Because data brokers unfortunately just take your information from various sites and sell them to the highest bidder. The only problem is there's way too many of those sites that you're going to have to email every single one a takedown request for your information. And before you know it, you're going to be spending more time doing that than a part-time job. But thankfully, that's where today's sponsor, Incogni, comes in, because they manage all of that for you. They'll scan the internet for information and automatically send takedown requests. Then on top of that, they'll keep on checking for you to make sure that you don't get put back into the system. I've now been using Incogni for a little bit over 1 year, and it's already had 516 data collectors take my information down, which has saved me roughly 387 hours. So I am happy that there's at least a solution to this massive problem. And hey, if you're dealing with these same issues, you can use my code Atozy for 60% off of your first year. For me, the service has already been a massive win because the spam calls I used to get multiple times a day have vanished. But unfortunately, that's just the tip of the iceberg for what data collectors collect. The crazier stuff would be your shopping habits, your address, your social security number, and your employment history. So I'm grateful Incogni wanted to support the channel and allow me to promote a product I personally use and enjoy. And if you think Incogni can help, you can go to incogni.com/Atozy by clicking the link right down below to start taking your personal data off the market right now. But without further ado, let's continue this video. Because Upi first appeared on some random Finnish image boards back in 2017, where he mostly talked about his daily routine. Back then, it was nothing more than an awkward, heavy drinking young dude who filmed videos on his cell phone for fun and was studying to become an IT technician. However, as his videos became increasingly bizarre and more viral, he inevitably became popular in the Finnish community. His content drew the attention of his classmates, who discovered his threads on the anonymous image boards, and after being recognized, Arttu quickly dropped out of school. And it's safe to say, things went downhill from there. Watching Upi's content is like witnessing a nuclear meltdown in slow motion. And the shocking factor here is it's intentional, since he often stated that it's his purpose to make people as angry as possible.
Well, my purpose in life is to cause a lot of unhappiness for society. I enjoy it when other people suffer for my existence. My purpose in life is to make as many people as possible angry, normies, working, or reading some canonical message in some liquid, and they're like, no, because Arttu's drinking again. Yeah, Arttu's drinking and dusting the streets.
Bro's kind of like a brain dead nerd from alcoholism who's been coddled way too much. But during his initial image board era, he used to leave his PayPal address in the threads he created just in case any of his early followers decided to donate something. And after getting a webcam as a donation from one of them, Upi began his live streaming career. He originally started on YouTube, primarily having drunken conversations with his chat, mixed in with some RuneScape and Euro Truck Simulator gameplay.
Ei ole joneista kuulunut oikein, kun mä en ole enää sinne rinkkironkku Discordissa. Nekin on hylännyt jo tuupat.
However, over time, his content slowly shifted to this extreme, chaotic behavior. And no wonder YouTube banned him after just 3 months of live streaming. I can't even show 90% of what he streamed because I don't want this video to get nuked either. But did that stop him? Absolutely not, because after his first ban on the platform, Upi decided to create a new channel. He then shared a new URL in another image board thread and began what his viewers call the Upi ban cycle, in which he creates an account, streams increasingly deranged content, gets banned, and then repeats the cycle. Honestly, it's kind of like the same cycle that Johnny Smalley's in. A lot of these degenerate IRL streamers are sadly very similar to each other because, of course, every single time he gets banned, it's for violating the platform guidelines. And as I hinted to earlier, it's extremely difficult to keep track of his online presence because his online accounts change so frequently. However, his most dedicated fans always find a way to keep up with him. Currently, he's streaming on Kick, and he has recently been making some appearances on Taiga streams, a former Norwegian Dota 2 player. Well, actually, after checking right now, he's banned on Kick again. So, yeah, he's gone. But Upi's career can easily be divided in 3 phases based on where he's living. The first would be from his apartment in Kajani, or is it Kajani? Kajani? Man, as a Norwegian, I should probably have the gist or like a basic understanding of how to pronounce Finnish words. But no, I mean, Finnish is very far away from Norwegian, Swedish, or Danish. So I'm completely lost here. So I'm probably going to mispronounce a lot of words here. But maybe Kajani. Which lasted from 2017 to the end of 2018. The second one was after he moved to Paltamu, where he stayed until 2023. And this was probably the craziest period of his life, and his most recent and current phase of Upi starts when he returns to his hometown of Kajani, after essentially screwing up so badly in that Paltamu place that he had to flee back home. And even though the events from his first phase could be considered pretty tame by Upi's standards, it's safe to say he didn't leave the apartment before creating some real highlights of his antics. For example, the time where he took loads of pills on stream and forced first responders to come save him in his house. And also when he drank cleaning solution while playing RuneScape after he ran out of beer. How is this real? You would think this is a parody or some sort of troll, but it's not. And by the end of 2018, he had to be evicted from his apartment. And naturally, he live streamed the whole thing from the moment the social workers knocked on his front door until the eviction itself, in a complete state of hungover from the previous night. So after getting evicted, he moved to the small town of Paltamo, where things went from bad to completely unhinged. His streams now received way more special guests than ever, and his apartment essentially became Finland's most chaotic frat house, bringing together a varied list of Finnish deranged influencers under the same roof. Each character brought their own flavor of insanity to the roster, but in the competition, from what I can see, Upi still has the throne for being an absolute degenerate. But the Finnish streamers and influencers weren't the only guests at his house most of the time. In fact, during his years at Paltamo, law enforcement became well acquainted with him, and the first responders became almost tenants at his apartment due to how often they would have to show up midstream. Sometimes they were called by his viewers, and other times by his neighbors exhausted with the constant noise. And it got to the point where the police were so familiar with the guy that they would usually just kind of greet him as a friend when they saw him, like, "Hey, what's up, Whoopi? What are you up to right now?" I mean, when the cops know you on a first name basis, or even worse, on a nickname basis, it's never a good sign. And then you have the arson incident, which even by Whoopi's standards, really stands out.
Kato, palokunta tuli jo.
One day when he was live, this genius had the idea of burning some of his furniture in his backyard alongside of whatever else he could find inside of his house. The fire then quickly spread to his fence and then his apartment complex. And then, of course, the fire department was called to put it out. And how did Whoopi thank the firefighters that came to prevent his stunt from burning down the whole neighborhood? He urinated right in front of them while live streaming it. Fascinating use of free will. The police took him into custody after that, which should be no surprise to anyone by now, but he wasn't held for too long, and they just released him right after. And much like all the furniture that he's burned in his backyard, he must have done the same to all of his bridges in Baltimore as of in 2023, he made the greatest return to his hometown. Kajani. I am so sorry to my Finnish viewers out there. So he's back to where his roots started from. And so many things have already happened in this chapter that it's impossible to list them all here, especially because many of them are not very family friendly to say the least. But there was a moment at the end of last year where he managed to drunkenly drive his mother's car 2 times and crash into an empty store while live streaming the latter. It's unclear if he actually received a real punishment for this, as all the articles of this just state that he was picked up by the police on the spot, but they don't go into further detail. Now, even though it would be impossible to make a list of everything that he's done in the last couple of years, I still can list some of the things that he's done in the previous few months, including trying to get Tyga banned by showing up on cam without his pants multiple times, rolling at the casino while high on whatever Walter White was cooking, throwing prosecutors' eviction letters down the toilet, obviously playing with that homemade flamethrower, live streaming himself going to the Finnish version of an AA meeting, but including substance abuse as well. So yeah, I mean, it is just absolutely chaotic. And when it comes to OP streams, he's been banned on everything to the point where he essentially has to be an internet panhandler to continue, as he can't get monetized in any other way without having a donation button. But it doesn't seem like that or the laws in Finland are stopping him. As someone who's raised in the Nordics myself, Norway, I'm very familiar with how relaxed things are up there. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how or if they will ever do anything. But other than that, hey, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. And hopefully I'm not as sick as what I currently am in my next video. But we shall see. But if you're new here, feel free to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.